Modern life is a whirlwind of constant noise, endless notifications, overflowing inboxes, and the pressure to always be on. It feels like we're being pulled in 100 directions at once, trying to stay connected to the people and responsibilities that matter most, while also yearning for a sense of inner peace. But what if I told you there's a way to navigate this chaos without losing yourself in the process? Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This is the essence of Stoic detachment, not cutting yourself off from the world, but finding a way to engage with it while maintaining your clarity and calm. In this video, we'll explore how to practice detachment without losing connection, how to stay present in your relationships and responsibilities while protecting your inner peace. We'll dive into key Stoic principles like cognitive reframing, which helps you shift your perspective on challenges, emotional resilience, which allows you to respond rather than react, and mindful presence, which keeps you grounded in the moment. These tools aren't about withdrawing from life, they're about engaging with it more fully with a sense of balance and purpose. So, if you've ever felt overwhelmed by the demands of modern life, or wondered how to stay connected without losing yourself, this is for you. Let's begin. What does it mean to truly detach without disconnecting? At first glance, the idea of detachment might sound cold or distant, as if we're being asked to shut off our emotions or stop caring about the people and things around us. But Stoic detachment is something entirely different. It's about emotional clarity, not indifference. It's a tool that helps us focus on what we can control and let go of what we cannot. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it this way: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In other words, Stoic detachment isn't about ignoring the world, it's about choosing how you respond to it. Think about a stressful day at work. Maybe a project didn't go as planned, or a colleague said something that upset you. In that moment, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, to let frustration or anxiety take over. But Stoic detachment invites you to pause and ask yourself, what part of this situation can I actually control? Can I change the outcome, or is my energy better spent managing my own reaction? By focusing on your internal response rather than the external event, you create space for calm and clarity. You're not disconnecting from the situation, you're engaging with it in a way that protects your peace of mind. Now take a moment to reflect. Where in your life do you struggle to let go? Is it a relationship, a job, or maybe even a personal expectation? Stoic detachment isn't about giving up. It's about recognizing where your power lies and using it wisely. When you practice this kind of detachment, you're not withdrawing from life. You're stepping into it with a clearer mind and a steadier heart, and that's where true connection begins. Detachment doesn't mean isolation, it means clarity. The Stoics understood this balance deeply. They valued relationships and connections, but they also knew the dangers of emotional dependency. Seneca, one of the most influential Stoic thinkers, once wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving." The process is mutual, for men learn while they teach. This quote captures the essence of Stoic connection. Relationships are meaningful, but they should uplift and empower, not drain or control us. So, how do we apply this in real life? Imagine you have a close friend who often leans on you for emotional support. While it's natural to want to help, there's a fine line between being supportive and becoming emotionally entangled in their struggles. Stoicism teaches us to maintain healthy boundaries, to offer empathy and understanding without taking on their emotional burden as our own. This doesn't mean you care any less. It means you're protecting your own mental clarity so you can show up as your best self in the relationship. Think about your own connections for a moment. Are there relationships where you feel drained or overwhelmed? Stoic detachment invites you to step back and ask, am I giving from a place of strength, or am I sacrificing my own peace to keep this connection afloat? By setting boundaries, you're not pushing people away, you're creating a healthier dynamic where both parties can thrive. It's about being present without losing yourself in the process. This balance between detachment and connection is especially crucial in today's world, where we're constantly bombarded with demands on our time and energy. The Stoics remind us that true connection comes from a place of inner stability. When you're grounded in your own values and emotions, you can engage with others more authentically without fear of losing yourself. It's not about shutting people out, it's about showing up fully with clarity and purpose. Consider this: what would it look like to bring more of this Stoic balance into your relationships? How might you practice being present without becoming emotionally overwhelmed? These are the kinds of questions that can help you navigate the complexities of connection with wisdom and grace. And as you reflect on them, remember that Stoicism isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Each small step toward balance is a step toward a more fulfilling way of living and relating to others. How often do we let our thoughts dictate our emotions? It's easy to fall into the trap of believing that our feelings are a direct result of what's happening around us. But the Stoics remind us that it's not the events themselves that shape our experience, it's how we interpret them. This is where cognitive reframing comes in, a powerful Stoic practice that helps us shift our perspective and reduce emotional attachment to things we can't control. Marcus Aurelius put it beautifully when he said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." In other words, obstacles aren't just roadblocks, they're opportunities for growth. Cognitive reframing is about training your mind to see challenges in a new light. Instead of viewing a setback as a failure, you can choose to see it as a chance to learn or adapt. For example, imagine you're stuck in traffic. Your first reaction might be frustration or anger, but what if you reframed that situation? Instead of focusing on the delay, you could use that time to listen to an audiobook, reflect on your day, or simply enjoy a moment of quiet. By shifting your perspective, you transform what could have been a stressful experience into something productive or even peaceful. This practice isn't about denying reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about recognizing that you have the power to choose how you respond to life's challenges. The Stoics believed that every obstacle carries within it the seed of an equal or greater benefit if only we're willing to look for it. So, the next time you face a difficult situation, ask yourself, how can I reframe this? What's the opportunity here? This simple shift in thinking can help you detach from the emotional weight of the moment and approach it with clarity and purpose. Now take a moment to reflect on a recent experience that left you feeling frustrated or upset. How might you reframe it in a way that highlights growth or learning? Maybe a missed deadline taught you the importance of better time management, or a disagreement with a loved one revealed an area where you can improve communication. By practicing cognitive reframing, you're not ignoring the difficulty. You're choosing to see it as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. And that's where true detachment begins, not in avoiding challenges, but in embracing them as opportunities to grow stronger and wiser. Detachment begins with being here now. It's easy to get caught up in the whirlwind of past regrets or future worries, but the Stoics understood that true peace comes from anchoring ourselves in the present moment. Epictetus once said, "We should always be asking ourselves, is this something that is or is not in my control?" This question isn't just about external events, it's about where we place our attention. When we focus on what's happening right now, we free ourselves from the weight of what's already happened or what might never come to pass. The Stoics were masters of mindfulness long before the term became popular. They believed that being fully present wasn't just a way to detach from distractions, it was a path to deeper connection with life itself. Think about it. When you're fully engaged in the moment, you're not replaying yesterday's mistakes or fretting over tomorrow's uncertainties. You're simply here, experiencing life as it unfolds. This kind of presence isn't about ignoring the past or the future. It's about not letting them dominate your thoughts and emotions. So, how can we practice this in our daily lives? Start small. The next time you sit down to eat, really focus on the experience. Notice the flavors, the textures, the way the food nourishes your body. Or when you're walking, pay attention to the rhythm of your steps, the feel of the ground beneath your feet, the sounds around you. These simple acts of presence can become powerful tools for detachment, helping you let go of mental clutter and reconnect with the here and now. Take a moment to reflect. What's one activity in your day where you can practice being fully present? Maybe it's during your morning coffee, a conversation with a loved one, or even a routine task like washing dishes. The key is to bring your full attention to that moment, letting go of distractions and simply being. When you do this, you're not just practicing Stoic detachment, you're cultivating a deeper, more meaningful connection to your own life. And that's where true freedom begins. Why do we let small things disrupt our peace? It's a question worth asking, especially when we consider how often minor irritations, a rude comment, a missed deadline, or even bad weather can throw us off balance. The Stoics believed that our emotional reactions are often disproportionate to the events themselves, and that's where detachment comes in. By practicing detachment, we're not ignoring the world or suppressing our emotions, we're building emotional resilience. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "A calm mind is a great asset in all circumstances." This calmness isn't about being emotionless, it's about being in control of how we respond, rather than being controlled by our reactions. Emotional resilience is the ability to bounce back from setbacks without losing your composure, and detachment is one of the most effective tools for cultivating it. Think about how often we overreact to things that, in the grand scheme of life, don't really matter. A harsh word from a coworker, a negative comment online, or even a minor inconvenience can spiral into hours of frustration or self-doubt. But what if, instead of letting these moments dictate our emotions, we paused and asked ourselves, is this worth my energy? The Stoics would argue that most of the time it's not. By detaching from the immediate emotional impact of a situation, we create space to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. Let's take criticism as an example. No one enjoys being criticized, but how we handle it can make all the difference. Instead of taking it personally or letting it shake your confidence, try viewing it through the lens of detachment. Ask yourself, is there truth in this feedback? If so, how can I use it to improve? If not, why should I let it affect me? This approach doesn't mean you're indifferent. It means you're choosing to focus on what's constructive rather than what's destructive. By doing this, you're not only protecting your emotional well-being, but also strengthening your ability to handle future challenges with grace. Now, think about a time when you felt overwhelmed by a situation. Maybe it was a heated argument, a professional setback, or even a personal disappointment. How might detachment have helped you stay calm and composed? The Stoics remind us that we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. And when we respond with clarity rather than chaos, we not only preserve our peace but also build the resilience to face whatever comes next. This kind of emotional resilience isn't about becoming unshakable overnight. It's a practice, a habit we cultivate over time. Each time you choose detachment over overreaction, you're strengthening your ability to navigate life's ups and downs with steadiness and poise. And as you do, you'll find that the small things, the ones that used to disrupt your peace, no longer hold the same power over you. Instead, you'll approach them with a calm mind and a resilient heart, ready to face whatever comes your way. What if we stopped labeling events as good or bad? The Stoics believed that external events themselves are indifferent. They're neither inherently positive nor negative. It's our judgments about those events that shape our experience. Marcus Aurelius captured this idea perfectly when he said, "The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it." In other words, it's not the event itself that defines us, but how we choose to perceive it. This principle is at the heart of Stoic detachment, recognizing that while we can't control what happens to us, we can always control how we interpret and respond to it. Take something as significant as losing a job. On the surface, it might seem like a devastating event, something to be feared or avoided at all costs. But the Stoics would challenge us to see it differently. Instead of labeling it as bad, they'd encourage us to ask, what opportunities might this change bring? Could it be a chance to explore a new career path, spend more time with family, or even reassess what truly matters to us? By shifting our perspective, we transform what could have been a source of anxiety into a catalyst for growth. The event itself hasn't changed, it's still a job loss, but our judgment of it has, and that makes all the difference. This doesn't mean we should ignore the challenges or difficulties that come with unexpected changes. Stoicism isn't about pretending everything is fine when it's not. It's about acknowledging reality while refusing to let it dictate our emotional state. For example, if you're dealing with a health issue, you might not be able to change the diagnosis, but you can choose how you respond to it. Will you let fear and frustration consume you, or will you focus on what you can control, your attitude, your actions, and your mindset? This is the essence of Stoic indifference, not apathy but clarity. Now, think about an external event in your own life that you've labeled as bad. Maybe it's a missed opportunity, a strained relationship, or even something as simple as a rainy day ruining your plans. How might you reframe it? What if, instead of seeing it as a setback, you viewed it as a chance to practice resilience, adaptability, or even gratitude? The Stoics remind us that every event, no matter how challenging, carries within it the potential for growth if we're willing to look for it. By practicing this principle, you're not denying the reality of difficult situations. You're simply choosing to see them through a lens of possibility rather than limitation. And when you do, you'll find that even the most unexpected changes can become opportunities to strengthen your character and deepen your understanding of what truly matters. So the next time life throws you a curveball, remember, it's not the event that defines you, it's how you choose to respond, and that choice is always yours. What would life look like if we stopped clinging to results? It's a question that strikes at the heart of Stoic philosophy, challenging us to rethink how we approach our goals and desires. The Stoics believed that attachment to outcomes, whether it's a promotion, a perfect relationship, or even a specific life milestone, often leads to unnecessary suffering. Why? Because outcomes are rarely within our full control. What we can control, however, is our effort, our attitude, and our commitment to the process. As Epictetus wisely said, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. This is the essence of Stoic detachment, focusing on what you can influence and letting go of what you cannot. Think about it this way: when you pour your energy into a project, a relationship, or a personal goal, the outcome isn't guaranteed. You might work tirelessly for a promotion only to be passed over. You might train for months for a marathon only to get injured before the race. These moments can feel devastating, but the Stoics would argue that the real value lies not in the result, but in the effort you put forth. By shifting your focus from the outcome to the process, you free yourself from the anxiety of unmet expectations and open yourself up to the joy of simply doing your best. Let's take fitness as an example. Many of us set specific goals, losing a certain amount of weight, running a certain distance, or achieving a particular physique. But what happens when we don't hit those targets? We feel frustrated, defeated, even ashamed. Stoicism invites us to reframe this. Instead of fixating on the number on the scale or the finish line, focus on the daily habits, showing up for your workout, eating nourishing foods, and honoring your body's needs. When you detach from the outcome and embrace the process, you're no longer at the mercy of external results. You're building resilience, discipline, and self-respect, qualities that far outlast any fleeting achievement. The same principle applies to career success. Imagine you've been working toward a big project or a promotion. You've done everything in your power to prepare, but the final decision isn't up to you. Instead of obsessing over whether you'll get the role, focus on what you can control: your preparation, your attitude, and your willingness to learn from the experience. By letting go of the outcome, you're not giving up, you're reclaiming your peace of mind and your ability to move forward, no matter what happens. Now take a moment to reflect. What's one goal or outcome you're overly attached to? Is it a personal ambition, a relationship, or even a specific expectation you've set for yourself? How might you shift your focus from the result to the effort? By practicing this kind of detachment, you're not abandoning your goals, you're approaching them with a healthier, more balanced mindset. And in doing so, you'll find that the journey itself becomes its own reward, full of lessons, growth, and unexpected joys. True freedom begins when we stop being ruled by our emotions. It's a powerful idea, isn't it? The Stoics believed that detachment wasn't about suppressing feelings or pretending they didn't exist. It was about reclaiming your power over them. Seneca, one of the most eloquent voices of Stoicism, put it this way: "The mind that is free from passions is a citadel. No place is more secure." In other words, when you detach from the emotional turbulence of life, you build an inner fortress of calm and clarity. This isn't about shutting yourself off from the world. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of emotional burdens that hold you back. Think about it. How often do we let our emotions dictate our actions? Anger, fear, jealousy, these feelings can feel overwhelming, even paralyzing. But Stoic detachment teaches us that we don't have to be ruled by them. Instead, we can observe our emotions, acknowledge them, and then choose how to respond. This shift from being controlled by emotions to being in control of them is where true freedom lies. It's the difference between reacting impulsively and responding with intention, between feeling trapped and feeling empowered. Let's take a practical example: toxic relationships. We've all been in situations where someone's behavior or words trigger strong emotions. Maybe it's a friend who constantly criticizes you or a partner who makes you feel unappreciated. In these moments, it's easy to get caught up in the emotional whirlwind, to feel hurt, angry, or even desperate to fix things. But Stoic detachment invites you to step back and ask, is this relationship serving me? Am I holding onto it out of fear, obligation, or habit? By detaching from the emotional grip of the situation, you create space to see it clearly and make decisions that align with your well-being. This doesn't mean cutting people off without thought or care. It means recognizing when a relationship is draining your energy or compromising your peace. When you detach from the emotional burden of trying to please or fix someone else, you free yourself to set boundaries, communicate honestly, and, if necessary, walk away. It's not about abandoning connection, it's about choosing connections that uplift and empower you. Now, take a moment to reflect. What's one emotional burden you're carrying that you're ready to release? Maybe it's resentment towards someone who hurt you, anxiety about a situation you can't control, or even self-doubt that's been holding you back. Whatever it is, imagine what it would feel like to let it go, not because it doesn't matter, but because it no longer defines you. That's the freedom Stoic detachment offers, the freedom to live fully, authentically, and unburdened by the weight of emotions that no longer serve you. By practicing this kind of detachment, you're not just freeing yourself from emotional turmoil, you're opening the door to a deeper sense of peace and possibility. And as you do, you'll find that true freedom isn't about escaping life's challenges. It's about facing them with a clear mind and a steady heart, ready to embrace whatever comes your way. How do we find peace when everything is temporary? It's a question that strikes at the core of the human experience, especially when we face loss, whether it's the end of a relationship, the passing of a loved one, or even the loss of a job. The Stoics understood that impermanence is woven into the fabric of life, and rather than resisting it, they taught us to embrace it. Marcus Aurelius, in his timeless wisdom, wrote, "Everything is ephemeral, both that which remembers and that which is remembered." In other words, life is fleeting, and clinging to what we cannot hold onto only leads to suffering. But when we accept impermanence, we find a deeper kind of peace, one that isn't shaken by the inevitable changes of life. The Stoic view of impermanence isn't about dismissing the pain of loss or pretending it doesn't matter. It's about recognizing that change is a natural part of existence and that resisting it only amplifies our suffering. Think about a tree shedding its leaves in autumn. The leaves don't cling to the branches, fighting to stay attached. They let go, trusting in the cycle of renewal. In the same way, Stoicism invites us to release our grip on what we cannot control, trusting that even in loss, there is an opportunity for growth and transformation. This isn't easy, of course, but it's a practice that can bring profound emotional resilience. Let's take the loss of a job as an example. For many of us, our careers are a central part of our identity, so losing a job can feel like losing a piece of ourselves. But what if, instead of seeing it as a failure or a setback, we viewed it as a chance to reassess our path? Maybe it's an opportunity to explore a new passion, to spend more time with family, or to develop skills we've neglected. By reframing the loss as a catalyst for change, we shift from feeling powerless to recognizing the potential for growth. This doesn't erase the difficulty of the situation, but it does help us navigate it with greater clarity and purpose. Now consider the loss of a loved one. Grief is one of the most profound emotions we experience, and it's natural to feel overwhelmed by it. But Stoicism reminds us that while we can't control the fact of loss, we can control how we honor the memory of those we've lost. Instead of focusing on the pain of their absence, we can choose to celebrate their life, to carry forward the lessons they taught us, and to find meaning in the time we shared. This doesn't mean we stop missing them. It means we find a way to hold their memory with gratitude rather than despair. Take a moment to reflect. How have you handled loss in the past? What did it teach you about yourself, about life, or about what truly matters? The Stoics believed that every loss, no matter how painful, carries within it the seeds of wisdom and growth. By embracing impermanence, we learn to live more fully in the present, to cherish what we have while we have it, and to face the future with courage and resilience. And in doing so, we find a peace that isn't dependent on external circumstances, a peace that comes from within. What if we shifted our focus from what's missing to what's present? It's a simple question, but one that holds the key to a profound shift in perspective. The Stoics understood that gratitude isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling, it's a powerful tool for detachment. By focusing on what we have rather than what we lack, we free ourselves from the endless cycle of desire and dissatisfaction. Seneca, the great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "True happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future." In other words, gratitude anchors us in the here and now, helping us find contentment in the present moment rather than chasing after what we don't have. The Stoics practiced gratitude as a way to cultivate inner peace and resilience. They believed that by regularly reflecting on the good in our lives, we could train our minds to see abundance rather than scarcity. This isn't about ignoring challenges or pretending everything is perfect. It's about recognizing that even in difficult times, there are things to be thankful for. For example, Marcus Aurelius, despite the immense pressures of ruling an empire, made it a habit to start his day by listing the things he was grateful for. This practice helped him maintain perspective and stay grounded, even in the face of overwhelming responsibility. So, how can we bring this Stoic practice into our own lives? One simple yet effective way is to keep a daily gratitude journal. Each day, take a few moments to write down 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand or life-changing. It could be something as small as a warm cup of coffee, a kind word from a friend, or even the beauty of a sunset. The act of writing them down helps solidify these moments in your mind, shifting your focus from what's lacking to what's already abundant in your life. Over time, this practice can rewire your brain to notice and appreciate the good, even in the midst of challenges. Now, take a moment to reflect. What are 3 things you're grateful for today? Maybe it's the support of a loved one, the opportunity to learn something new, or simply the fact that you're alive and breathing. By acknowledging these gifts, you're not just practicing gratitude, you're practicing detachment. You're letting go of the need for more and finding peace in what's already here. And in doing so, you're building a foundation of contentment that no external circumstance can easily shake. Gratitude, in the Stoic sense, isn't about denying reality or ignoring hardship. It's about choosing to see the good alongside the bad, to find light even in the darkest moments. When we cultivate this mindset, we're not just detaching from what we lack, we're reconnecting with the richness of our own lives. And that's where true freedom begins, not in having everything we want, but in appreciating everything we already have. What if we realized we always have a choice? It's a simple yet profound idea that lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that while we can't always control what happens to us, we always have control over how we respond. This power of choice is what sets us free, not from life's challenges, but from being ruled by them. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic teachers, put it this way: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In other words, our freedom doesn't come from controlling external events. It comes from mastering our internal responses. Think about a heated argument. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to react impulsively, to say something hurtful or let anger take over. But Stoicism invites us to pause and ask, what kind of person do I want to be in this moment? Do I want to escalate the conflict, or do I want to respond with calm and clarity? By choosing our response, we're not just diffusing the situation, we're reclaiming our power. This isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about aligning our actions with our values, even when it's hard. Let's take a real-world example, a disagreement at work. Maybe a colleague criticizes your idea in a meeting, and your first instinct is to defend yourself or fire back. But what if, instead of reacting defensively, you chose to respond with curiosity? You might say, "I appreciate your perspective. Can you tell me more about your concerns?" This shift from reaction to response doesn't just resolve the conflict, it transforms it into an opportunity for collaboration and growth. By exercising your power of choice, you're not just managing the situation, you're shaping it. Now, consider this. What's one area of your life where you feel like you don't have a choice? Maybe it's a relationship that feels stuck, a job that drains you, or even a habit you can't seem to break. The Stoics would remind you that even in these situations, you still have a choice, not over the circumstances, but over how you engage with them. You can choose to stay stuck, or you can choose to take a small step toward change. You can choose to dwell on what's wrong, or you can choose to focus on what's within your control. The power is always yours. This principle of choice isn't just about avoiding conflict or managing stress, it's about living with intention. Every decision, no matter how small, is an opportunity to align your actions with your values. And when you do that consistently, you're not just practicing Stoic detachment, you're building a life of purpose and integrity. So the next time you feel overwhelmed or stuck, remember, you always have a choice. And that choice is where your freedom begins. What if we prepared for the worst to embrace the best? It might sound counterintuitive, but this is the essence of the Stoic practice known as premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. The idea isn't to dwell on negativity or invite fear into our lives, but to confront potential challenges head-on so we're better equipped to handle them. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most profound thinkers, put it this way: "What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster." This is a reason for ensuring that nothing ever takes us by surprise. In other words, by anticipating difficulties, we strip them of their power to shock or overwhelm us. At its core, premeditatio malorum is about mental preparation. It's a way of rehearsing life's uncertainties so that when they arise, we're not caught off guard. Think of it like a fire drill. You don't practice because you expect a fire, but because you want to be ready if one ever happens. The Stoics believed that by imagining the worst-case scenarios, we could reduce our fear of the unknown and strengthen our emotional resilience. This practice doesn't make us pessimistic, it makes us prepared. Let's take financial planning as an example. Many of us worry about money, whether it's the fear of losing a job, facing unexpected expenses, or not having enough for retirement. Instead of letting that anxiety consume you, premeditatio malorum invites you to ask, what's the worst that could happen? If I lost my job tomorrow, what steps could I take to recover? By mentally walking through these scenarios, you're not just reducing fear, you're creating a plan. You might start building an emergency fund, updating your resume, or exploring side income opportunities. The act of preparation itself brings a sense of control and calm, even if the worst never happens. The same principle applies to health concerns. Imagine you're facing a medical test or a procedure. It's natural to feel anxious, but what if you used premeditatio malorum to prepare? You might ask yourself, what's the worst possible outcome? How would I handle it? By visualizing the steps you'd take, whether it's seeking a second opinion, adjusting your lifestyle, or leaning on loved ones for support, you're not just bracing for impact. You're building the mental and emotional tools to navigate whatever comes your way. Now, take a moment to reflect. What's one challenge you've been avoiding or fearing? Maybe it's a difficult conversation, a career transition, or even a personal goal you're hesitant to pursue. How might you use premeditatio malorum to prepare for it? By mentally rehearsing the steps you'd take, you're not just reducing fear, you're empowering yourself to face the unknown with confidence and clarity. And in doing so, you're embracing the Stoic truth that preparation isn't about expecting the worst. It's about being ready to meet life, no matter what it brings. How much of what we worry about is truly in our control? It's a question that cuts to the heart of Stoic philosophy, challenging us to rethink where we place our energy and attention. The Stoics believed that much of our suffering comes from trying to control things that are simply beyond our reach, whether it's other people's opinions, the outcome of a situation, or even the future itself. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This simple yet profound insight reminds us that true freedom lies not in controlling the world around us, but in mastering our own thoughts and reactions. At its core, Stoicism teaches us to distinguish between what we can control and what we cannot. This distinction is crucial because it shifts our focus from external outcomes to internal responses. Think about it. You can't control whether it rains on your wedding day, but you can control how you react to it. You can't force someone to like you, but you can choose how you treat them. By focusing on what's within your power, your actions, your attitudes, your values, you free yourself from the frustration of trying to change what you can't. This isn't about giving up, it's about redirecting your energy toward what truly matters. Let's take parenting as an example. As a parent, it's natural to want the best for your child, to hope they succeed in school, make good friends, and grow into happy, healthy adults. But here's the truth, you can't control every aspect of their lives. You can't force them to study, make friends for them, or shield them from every disappointment. What you can do is create a supportive environment, model good behavior, and teach them resilience. By focusing on these things, the aspects you can influence, you're not only setting your child up for success, but you're also freeing yourself from the anxiety of trying to control the uncontrollable. The same principle applies to leadership. A good leader understands that they can't control every detail of their team's performance or the outcome of every project. What they can control is how they communicate, how they set expectations, and how they respond to challenges. By focusing on these internal factors, leaders create a culture of trust and accountability, empowering their teams to thrive without micromanaging every step. This approach doesn't just reduce stress, it fosters growth and innovation. Now take a moment to reflect. What's one area of your life where you're trying to control the uncontrollable? Is it a relationship, a career goal, or even a personal habit? The Stoics would encourage you to ask yourself, what's truly within my power here? By shifting your focus to what you can control, you're not just practicing detachment, you're reclaiming your peace of mind and your ability to move forward with clarity and purpose. And in doing so, you'll find that the illusion of control fades, replaced by the freedom of acceptance and the strength of inner mastery. What if our values, not our emotions, guided our actions? This is the heart of Stoic virtue, a set of principles that not only shape how we live but also how we detach. The Stoics believed that true detachment isn't about suppressing emotions or withdrawing from life. It's about aligning our actions with wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. These four virtues serve as a compass, helping us navigate life's challenges with clarity and purpose. As Epictetus once said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. In other words, detachment begins with knowing who you want to be and living in alignment with that ideal. Let's break this down. Wisdom, the first Stoic virtue, teaches us to see things as they truly are, not as we wish them to be. It's about recognizing what's within our control and what isn't, and making decisions based on that understanding. Courage, the second virtue, isn't just about bravery in the face of danger. It's about standing firm in our values, even when it's uncomfortable or inconvenient. Justice, the third virtue, calls us to act with fairness and integrity, treating others as we'd want to be treated. And temperance, the fourth virtue, reminds us to live with balance, avoiding excess in all things. Together, these virtues form a framework for detachment that's rooted not in indifference but in intentional living. Imagine you're faced with an ethical dilemma at work. Perhaps a colleague is taking credit for your ideas. Your first instinct might be anger or frustration, but Stoic virtue invites you to pause and ask, what would wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance look like in this situation? Wisdom might help you assess the situation objectively, recognizing that your colleague's actions are beyond your control. Courage could guide you to address the issue calmly and assertively, standing up for yourself without resorting to hostility. Justice would remind you to treat your colleague with fairness, even if they haven't done the same for you. And temperance would keep you from overreacting, helping you respond with balance and poise. By aligning your actions with these virtues, you're not just resolving the conflict, you're practicing detachment in a way that strengthens your character. Now think about a personal conflict in your own life. Maybe it's a disagreement with a loved one or a decision that feels morally challenging. How might Stoic virtue guide you? Wisdom could help you see the situation clearly, separating facts from emotions. Courage might encourage you to have that difficult conversation or make the tough choice. Justice would remind you to act with fairness and compassion, even when it's hard, and temperance would keep you from letting anger or fear dictate your actions. By applying these virtues, you're not just solving the problem, you're cultivating a deeper sense of inner peace and resilience. Take a moment to reflect. How can you bring more Stoic virtue into your daily life? What's one area where you could let your values rather than your emotions guide your actions? The Stoics believed that living in alignment with virtue isn't just a path to detachment, it's a path to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. And as you practice this, you'll find that the challenges you face become opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more connected to what truly matters. What if we imagined losing what we cherish to truly value it? This might sound counterintuitive, but it's the foundation of a powerful Stoic practice called negative visualization. The idea is simple. By mentally rehearsing the loss of the people, things, or circumstances we hold dear, we cultivate a deeper appreciation for them while simultaneously reducing our fear of losing them. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, captured this beautifully when he wrote, "He who is not satisfied with a little is satisfied with nothing." In other words, by confronting the impermanence of what we have, we learn to cherish it more fully and live with greater gratitude. Negative visualization isn't about dwelling on pessimism or inviting fear into our lives. It's about preparing our minds for life's uncertainties so that we're not caught off guard when change inevitably comes. Think of it as a mental exercise in resilience. When we imagine losing something, whether it's a loved one, a job, or even our health, we're not just bracing for the worst, we're reminding ourselves of the value it holds in our lives. This practice helps us detach from the fear of loss and instead focus on the present moment where true appreciation resides. Let's take relationships as an example. Imagine for a moment that someone you love deeply is no longer in your life. How would you feel? What would you miss most about them? By visualizing this loss, you're not inviting sadness. You're creating an opportunity to reflect on the joy they bring to your life right now. This exercise can inspire you to express your gratitude more openly, to spend quality time together, or simply to appreciate the small, everyday moments you might otherwise take for granted. It's a way of deepening your connection by acknowledging its fragility. The same principle applies to material possessions. Consider your home, your car, or even your favorite piece of clothing. What if you woke up tomorrow and it was gone? Negative visualization invites you to reflect on the role these things play in your life, not to make you anxious, but to help you recognize that your happiness doesn't depend on them. By mentally preparing for their loss, you're not only reducing your attachment to them, but also cultivating a sense of gratitude for the comfort and convenience they provide. Now take a moment to reflect. What's one thing or person you value deeply? Close your eyes and imagine, just for a moment, what life would be like without them. How does that thought make you feel? Does it shift your perspective on what truly matters? The Stoics believed that by practicing negative visualization, we're not just preparing for loss, we're learning to live with greater presence and appreciation. And in doing so, we're building a resilience that allows us to face life's uncertainties with courage and grace. This practice isn't about living in fear of loss, it's about living in gratitude for what we have. By embracing the impermanence of life, we free ourselves from the anxiety of clinging too tightly and open ourselves to the joy of truly experiencing the present. So, the next time you find yourself taking something for granted, try this Stoic exercise. You might just find that the things you cherish most become even more meaningful when you see them through the lens of gratitude and impermanence. What if we stopped resisting and started accepting? This simple shift in mindset lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy, offering a profound way to reduce suffering and find peace. The Stoics believed that much of our pain comes not from the events themselves, but from our resistance to them. Marcus Aurelius, in his timeless wisdom, wrote, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart." In other words, acceptance isn't about passive resignation. It's about embracing reality as it is with clarity and courage, rather than wasting energy fighting against what we cannot change. At its core, acceptance is a form of liberation. When we stop resisting the natural flow of life, we free ourselves from the emotional turmoil that comes with trying to control the uncontrollable. Think about it. How often do we exhaust ourselves trying to change things that are simply beyond our power? Whether it's a health diagnosis, a job loss, or even a global crisis, resistance only amplifies our suffering. Acceptance, on the other hand, allows us to meet these challenges with a calm and steady mind, focusing our energy on what we can control our response. Let's take illness as an example. Facing a health challenge can feel overwhelming, especially when it disrupts our plans or limits our abilities. But Stoicism teaches us that while we can't always control our physical condition, we can control how we respond to it. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up or ignoring the reality of the situation. It means acknowledging it fully and then deciding how to move forward. Maybe it's focusing on treatment, adjusting your lifestyle, or simply finding moments of joy and gratitude despite the pain. By accepting the reality of your condition, you're not surrendering to it. You're reclaiming your power to live fully, even in the face of adversity. The same principle applies to failure. Whether it's a missed opportunity, a broken relationship, or a project that didn't go as planned, failure can feel like a personal blow. But what if, instead of resisting it, you accepted it as a natural part of growth? The Stoics believed that failure isn't something to fear or avoid. It's an opportunity to learn, adapt, and become stronger. By accepting failure as a teacher rather than an enemy, you transform it from a source of suffering into a stepping stone toward resilience and wisdom. Now take a moment to reflect. What's one thing in your life that you're resisting right now? Is it a difficult situation, an uncomfortable truth, or even a personal flaw you're struggling to accept? How might your life change if you stopped fighting against it and instead embraced it with openness and curiosity? Acceptance doesn't mean you have to like or approve of everything that happens. It simply means you're choosing to face it with clarity and courage, rather than letting it control your emotions. By practicing acceptance, you're not just reducing your suffering, you're opening the door to a deeper sense of peace and possibility. And as you do, you'll find that life's challenges become less about what happens to you and more about how you choose to respond. So, the next time you feel the urge to resist, remember the Stoic wisdom. Acceptance isn't weakness, it's strength. And in that strength, you'll find the freedom to live fully, no matter what life brings. How often do we see challenges as catastrophes instead of opportunities? It's a question worth asking, especially when we consider how easily we can get caught up in the emotional weight of a situation. The Stoics believed that our perspective, how we choose to see and interpret events, has the power to transform our experience. Epictetus, one of the most influential Stoic teachers, put it this way: "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them." In other words, it's not the event itself that shapes our emotions, but the meaning we assign to it. This is the essence of Stoic detachment, not ignoring reality, but reframing it in a way that empowers us rather than overwhelms us. Think about a setback at work, like missing out on a promotion. At first glance, it might feel like a failure, a blow to your confidence, or even your career trajectory. But what if, instead of seeing it as a dead end, you viewed it as a chance to reassess your goals? Maybe it's an opportunity to develop new skills, explore a different path, or even strengthen your resilience. By shifting your perspective, you're not denying the disappointment. You're choosing to see it as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. This is the power of Stoic reframing. It allows us to detach from the emotional weight of a situation and approach it with clarity and purpose. Let's take another example, a disagreement with a loved one. In the heat of the moment, it's easy to see the conflict as a sign of a broken relationship or a personal failure. But what if you reframed it as an opportunity for growth? Maybe it's a chance to improve communication, deepen understanding, or even set healthier boundaries. By shifting your perspective, you're not just resolving the conflict, you're transforming it into a catalyst for connection and growth. This is the Stoic approach to detachment, not avoiding emotions, but choosing how to engage with them in a way that serves your well-being. Now take a moment to reflect. What's one challenge you're facing right now? How might you reframe it as an opportunity? Maybe a financial setback is a chance to reevaluate your priorities, or a health issue is an invitation to focus on self-care. The Stoics remind us that every challenge, no matter how difficult, carries within it the potential for growth if we're willing to look for it. By practicing this kind of perspective shift, you're not just detaching from the emotional weight of the moment, you're opening yourself up to a deeper sense of resilience and possibility. This practice isn't about denying reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about recognizing that you have the power to choose how you interpret and respond to life's challenges. And when you do, you'll find that even the most difficult situations can become opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more connected to what truly matters. So the next time you face a setback, remember, it's not the event that defines you, it's how you choose to see it, and that choice is always yours. What if we pause to understand ourselves before reacting? This simple act of self-reflection is one of the most powerful tools the Stoics use to detach from ego and align with their values. It's easy to get caught up in the heat of the moment, letting emotions or external pressures dictate our actions. But Stoicism teaches us that true detachment begins with understanding ourselves, our motivations, our triggers, and the stories we tell ourselves about who we are. As Seneca wisely said, you should be examining yourself every day. This is the most important task of all. Self-reflection isn't just about looking inward, it's about creating space between our impulses and our actions, so we can respond with intention rather than react out of habit. The Stoics were firm believers in the practice of journaling as a way to cultivate this kind of self-awareness. Marcus Aurelius, for example, filled his personal writings with reflections on his thoughts, emotions, and actions. His meditations weren't meant for public consumption, they were a private space for him to examine his life, question his assumptions, and realign with his values. This practice of daily reflection allowed him to detach from the noise of the external world and focus on what truly mattered, living a life of virtue and purpose. It's a reminder that self-reflection isn't about self-criticism, it's about self-understanding. So how can we bring this practice into our own lives? One simple way is to set aside a few minutes each day to reflect on your thoughts and actions. You might ask yourself questions like, what triggered me today? How did I respond? And was that response aligned with my values? What can I learn from this experience? By making this a daily habit, you create a space to step back from the chaos of life and gain clarity about who you are and how you want to show up in the world. It's not about judging yourself, it's about observing, learning, and growing. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you had a disagreement with a coworker. In the moment, you might have felt defensive or frustrated, but later, during your reflection, you realize that your reaction was rooted in a fear of being misunderstood. This insight allows you to detach from the ego-driven need to be right and instead focus on how you can communicate more effectively in the future. By reflecting on your reactions, you're not just gaining clarity, you're building the emotional resilience to handle similar situations with greater ease. Now take a moment to reflect. What's one recent situation where your reaction surprised you? What might it reveal about your values, fears, or assumptions? The Stoics believed that self-reflection is the key to living a life of integrity and purpose. When we take the time to understand ourselves, we're not just detaching from ego, we're aligning with the best version of who we can be. And in that alignment, we find a deeper sense of peace and connection to what truly matters. What if we saw ourselves as part of a greater whole? This is a question the Stoics ask themselves often, and it's one that can transform how we approach detachment. For the Stoics, nature wasn't just the trees, the rivers, or the stars. It was the very fabric of existence, a vast, interconnected system that operates with its own rhythms and order. By aligning ourselves with this natural order, they believed we could find a profound sense of peace and detachment. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "Everything is interwoven and the web is holy, none of its parts are unconnected. They are composed harmoniously, and together they compose the world." In other words, when we see ourselves as part of this greater whole, we begin to understand that our struggles, our desires, and even our existence are part of something much larger than ourselves. The Stoics saw nature as a teacher, a guide that could help us detach from the chaos of human concerns and reconnect with what truly matters. They observed how the seasons change without resistance, how trees grow toward the light without complaint, and how rivers flow effortlessly around obstacles. These natural processes, they believed, held lessons for how we could live our lives. Instead of fighting against the natural order, we could learn to flow with it, accepting what we cannot change and focusing our energy on what we can. This isn't about passivity, it's about harmony. When we align with nature's rhythms, we're not giving up, we're finding a deeper sense of balance and purpose. So, how can we bring this Stoic wisdom into our own lives? One simple yet powerful way is to spend more time in nature. Whether it's a walk in the woods, a moment by the ocean, or even just sitting under a tree in your backyard, immersing yourself in the natural world can help you reconnect with that sense of interconnectedness. Notice how the wind moves through the leaves, how the earth feels beneath your feet, or how the sunlight filters through the branches. These small moments of presence can remind you that you're part of something greater, helping you detach from the noise of daily life and find clarity in the simplicity of the natural world. Now take a moment to reflect. How can you align more with nature's rhythms in your own life? Maybe it's carving out time each day to step outside, even if it's just for a few minutes. Or perhaps it's adopting a more mindful approach to your routines, noticing the cycles of your own energy and rest. The Stoics remind us that when we align with nature, we're not just finding peace, we're rediscovering our place in the world. And in that rediscovery, we find a deeper sense of connection, not just to the earth, but to ourselves and to the people around us. What if we met every challenge with calm and balance? This is the essence of equanimity, a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy that teaches us to remain steady, no matter what life throws our way. The Stoics believed that equanimity, a state of mental calm and composure, wasn't just a lofty ideal. It was a practical tool for navigating life's inevitable ups and downs. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, put it this way: "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In other words, equanimity isn't about avoiding emotions, it's about mastering them so we can respond to challenges with clarity and purpose. At its core, equanimity is about detachment, not from life, but from the emotional turbulence that can cloud our judgment and drain our energy. Think about it. How often do we let small irritations, a rude comment, a missed deadline, or even bad weather throw us off balance? The Stoics would argue that these moments don't have to dictate our emotional state. By cultivating equanimity, we create a buffer between external events and our internal reactions, allowing us to meet challenges with calm and balance rather than chaos. Let's take a practical example: traffic. Few things test our patience like being stuck in a jam, especially when we're running late. In that moment, it's easy to let frustration take over, to honk the horn or mutter under your breath. But what if, instead of reacting impulsively, you paused and reminded yourself, "This is beyond my control. I can choose to stay calm." By practicing equanimity, you're not just reducing stress, you're reclaiming your power to respond thoughtfully rather than react emotionally. This shift doesn't just make the situation more bearable, it transforms it into an opportunity to practice resilience and self-mastery. The same principle applies to disagreements. Imagine you're in a heated argument with a loved one. Emotions are running high, and it feels like the conversation is spiraling out of control. Equanimity invites you to take a step back, to breathe deeply and ask yourself, what's truly at stake here? By detaching from the emotional intensity of the moment, you create space to respond with empathy and understanding rather than anger or defensiveness. This doesn't mean you ignore your feelings. It means you choose how to engage with them so you can resolve the conflict with clarity and compassion. Now, take a moment to reflect. What's one situation in your life where you could practice equanimity today? Maybe it's a stressful work meeting, a difficult conversation, or even a personal goal that feels out of reach. How might approaching it with calm and balance change the outcome? The Stoics remind us that equanimity isn't about suppressing emotions, it's about channeling them in a way that serves our well-being and strengthens our relationships. And as you practice this, you'll find that even the most challenging moments can become opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more connected to what truly matters. What if we found clarity in the quiet moments? In a world that never stops talking, silence can feel like a rare gift, a space where we can step back from the noise and reconnect with ourselves. The Stoics understood this deeply. They saw silence not as emptiness but as a powerful tool for self-awareness and detachment. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, once wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage. And sometimes to be silent is an act of wisdom." In the stillness, we create room to observe our thoughts, to untangle our emotions, and to align with what truly matters. For the Stoics, silence wasn't just about avoiding conversation. It was about cultivating inner stillness. It's in these quiet moments that we can detach from the external chaos, the opinions, the expectations, the endless distractions, and turn our attention inward. Think about it. How often do we truly listen to ourselves, not to the chatter of our minds, but to the deeper voice that speaks with clarity and purpose? Silence gives us the space to hear that voice, to reflect on our values, and to make decisions that align with our true selves. So, how can we bring this Stoic practice into our daily lives? Start small. Set aside just 5 minutes each day to sit in silence. You don't need a special place or a complicated routine. Just find a quiet corner, close your eyes, and let the stillness settle around you. Notice your thoughts without judgment, like clouds passing through the sky. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the present moment. This simple practice can become a powerful anchor, helping you detach from the noise of the world and reconnect with your inner clarity. Now take a moment to reflect. What would it feel like to give yourself the gift of silence today? How might those quiet moments change the way you approach your day, your relationships, or even your challenges? The Stoics remind us that silence isn't about escaping life. It's about engaging with it more fully, with a mind that's clear and a heart that's steady. And as you practice this, you'll find that the quietest moments often hold the loudest truths. What if we needed less to feel more fulfilled? It's a question that challenges the very foundation of how we live in a world that often equates success with accumulation. The Stoics, however, saw things differently. They believed that true freedom and fulfillment didn't come from owning more, but from needing less. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking." This idea of Stoic minimalism isn't about deprivation, it's about liberation. By simplifying our lives, we detach from the endless cycle of desire and create space for what truly matters. At its core, Stoic minimalism is about focusing on what's essential and letting go of what's not. The Stoics understood that material possessions, while convenient, often come with hidden cost, stress, distraction, and the constant need for more. By choosing simplicity over excess, we free ourselves from these burdens and align our lives with our values. Think about it. How much of what we own do we truly need? How much of it actually adds value to our lives, and how much of it just takes up space physically and mentally? The Stoics would argue that by shedding the unnecessary, we're not losing anything, we're gaining clarity, peace, and a deeper sense of purpose. So, how can we put this into practice? Start small. Choose one area of your life to declutter, whether it's your closet, your schedule, or even your digital space. Take a moment to ask yourself, what here is essential? What brings me joy or serves a meaningful purpose, and what can I let go of without regret? This process isn't just about creating physical space. It's about cultivating mental and emotional space as well. When we remove the excess, we make room for what truly enriches our lives, whether that's meaningful relationships, personal growth, or simply the freedom to breathe. Now take a moment to reflect. What's one thing in your life that you could let go of to simplify? Maybe it's a possession you no longer use, a commitment that drains your energy, or even a habit that no longer serves you. The act of releasing it isn't just about minimalism, it's about reclaiming your time, your energy, and your focus. And as you do, you'll find that needing less doesn't mean living with less. It means living with more clarity, more peace, and more freedom to pursue what truly matters. What if we loved deeply but held lightly? This is the heart of Stoic non-attachment, a practice that allows us to fully engage with life without being consumed by it. The Stoics believed that attachment, while natural, often leads to suffering when we cling too tightly to people, possessions, or outcomes. Non-attachment, on the other hand, isn't about indifference or withdrawal. It's about loving and living with an open hand, appreciating what we have without fearing its loss. As Epictetus wisely said, enjoy what you have but do not become dependent on it. This balance between deep engagement and light holding is where true freedom lies. At its core, non-attachment is about recognizing the impermanence of all things. The Stoics understood that life is constantly changing, and trying to hold onto what's fleeting only leads to frustration and pain. Instead, they taught us to savor the present moment, to cherish what we have while it's here, and to let go gracefully when it's time. This doesn't mean we stop caring or investing in our relationships and passions. It means we do so with a sense of openness and trust, knowing that nothing lasts forever. By practicing non-attachment, we're not rejecting life, we're embracing it more fully, with less fear and more joy. Let's take relationships as an example. It's natural to want to hold onto the people we love, to fear losing them, or to try to control the course of the relationship. But non-attachment invites us to love without possessiveness, to appreciate the time we have together without clinging to it. Imagine a close friendship. You can cherish the moments you share, the laughter and support, without needing the friendship to look a certain way or last forever. By holding it lightly, you're not diminishing its value, you're freeing it to be what it is without the weight of expectation or fear. This kind of love is deeper, more authentic, and ultimately more fulfilling. The same principle applies to hobbies and passions. Think about a creative pursuit like painting or writing. When we're attached to the outcome, whether it's praise, recognition, or even perfection, we risk losing the joy of the process itself. Non-attachment allows us to create for the sake of creating, to immerse ourselves in the act without worrying about the result. It's not about giving up on excellence, it's about finding freedom in the doing rather than the achieving. When we let go of the need for a specific outcome, we open ourselves up to the pure pleasure of the experience. Now take a moment to reflect. Where in your life could you practice non-attachment? Is it a relationship, a goal, or even a possession you're holding onto too tightly? How might letting go or just a little change the way you experience it? The Stoics remind us that non-attachment isn't about losing what we love. It's about loving in a way that's free from fear and control. And when we do, we find that life becomes richer, more vibrant, and infinitely more peaceful. So the next time you feel the urge to cling, remember, love deeply but hold lightly. That's where true freedom begins. What if we saw others' struggles as our own? This question lies at the heart of Stoic compassion, a practice that allows us to connect deeply with others while maintaining our inner peace. The Stoics believed that empathy wasn't about losing ourselves in someone else's pain, but about understanding their experience without being consumed by it. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, captured this beautifully when he wrote, "We are all limbs of the same body. Nature made us relatives when she gave us the same origin and the same end." In other words, compassion isn't just a feeling, it's a recognition of our shared humanity, a way of seeing ourselves in others without losing sight of who we are. At its core, Stoic compassion is about balance. It's the ability to feel for someone without taking on their emotional burden, to offer support without sacrificing your own well-being. Think about it. When we're deeply entangled in someone else's struggles, we risk losing our clarity and becoming overwhelmed. But when we approach their pain with empathy and detachment, we create space to help effectively without being pulled into the chaos. This isn't about being cold or distant, it's about being present in a way that's both caring and grounded. Let's take a practical example, a difficult conversation with a friend who's going through a tough time. It's natural to want to fix their problems or absorb their pain, but Stoic compassion invites us to approach the situation differently. Instead of trying to solve everything, we can simply listen, truly listen, without judgment or the need to rescue. By offering our presence and understanding, we're not just supporting them, we're practicing detachment from the need to control the outcome. This kind of compassion is powerful because it allows both people to feel seen and heard without either one losing themselves in the process. Now take a moment to reflect. How can you bring more Stoic compassion into your interactions today? Is there someone in your life who could use a listening ear or a kind word? The Stoics remind us that compassion isn't about grand gestures. It's about small, intentional acts of understanding. When we approach others with empathy and detachment, we're not just helping them, we're strengthening our own ability to connect deeply without losing our balance. And in that balance, we find a deeper sense of peace and connection to the world around us. What if we stopped seeking validation and started seeking truth? This shift in focus lies at the heart of Stoic humility, a practice that helps us detach from ego and reconnect with our true selves. The Stoics believed that humility wasn't about diminishing ourselves or downplaying our worth. It was about recognizing our place in the grand scheme of things. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "Pride is the master of all delusions. It is the greatest obstacle to wisdom." In other words, humility isn't weakness, it's the key to seeing clearly, free from the distortions of ego and self-importance. At its core, humility is about honesty. It's the willingness to acknowledge our limitations, to admit when we're wrong, and to learn from others without defensiveness. Think about it. How often do we let pride get in the way of growth? Whether it's refusing to ask for help, clinging to outdated beliefs, or seeking constant validation, ego can trap us in a cycle of stagnation. Humility, on the other hand, opens the door to curiosity, connection, and continuous improvement. It's not about thinking less of ourselves, it's about thinking of ourselves less so we can focus on what truly matters. Let's take a practical example, a competitive work environment. It's easy to get caught up in the race for recognition, to measure our worth by titles, accolades, or how we stack up against others. But Stoic humility invites us to approach competition differently. Instead of focusing on outshining others, we can focus on doing our best, learning from those around us, and contributing to the team's success. Imagine you're passed over for a promotion. Instead of letting pride fuel resentment or self-doubt, you could choose to ask for feedback, identify areas for growth, and use the experience as a stepping stone. By practicing humility, you're not just detaching from ego, you're building resilience and fostering genuine connections. Now take a moment to reflect. Where in your life could you embrace more humility? Is it in your relationships, your career, or even your personal goals? The Stoics remind us that humility isn't about shrinking ourselves, it's about expanding our capacity for growth and connection. When we let go of the need for validation, we free ourselves to live authentically, guided by truth rather than ego. And in that freedom, we find a deeper sense of peace and purpose. So, the next time you feel the pull of pride, remember, humility isn't a loss, it's a path to wisdom and to a more meaningful way of living. What if we let go of grudges to free ourselves? It's a question that strikes at the heart of one of the most transformative practices in Stoicism, forgiveness. The Stoics understood that holding on to resentment or anger doesn't punish the person who wronged us, it only weighs us down. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it bluntly: anger, if not restrained, is frequently more hurtful to us than the injury that provokes it. In other words, forgiveness isn't about excusing someone else's behavior. It's about releasing the emotional burden that comes with holding onto pain. It's a form of self-liberation, a way to reclaim your peace and move forward with clarity. Forgiveness, in the Stoic sense, is deeply tied to detachment. When we forgive, we're not denying the hurt or pretending it didn't happen. Instead, we're choosing to let go of the emotional grip that the hurt has on us. Think about it. How much mental energy do we waste replaying past wrongs, imagining what we could have said or done differently, or wishing for an apology that may never come? Forgiveness allows us to step back from that cycle, to detach from the resentment and focus on what we can control: our own thoughts, actions, and well-being. It's not about forgetting, it's about freeing yourself from the weight of the past. Let's take a practical example. Imagine someone at work took credit for your idea, leaving you feeling undervalued and frustrated. It's natural to feel angry or betrayed, but holding onto that anger only keeps you stuck in the past. Forgiveness, in this case, doesn't mean you have to trust that person again or pretend the situation didn't matter. It means you choose to let go of the resentment so you can focus on your own growth and success. By detaching from the emotional weight of the situation, you're not just freeing yourself, you're creating space to move forward with confidence and purpose. Now take a moment to reflect. Is there someone in your life you need to forgive? Maybe it's a friend who let you down, a family member who hurt you, or even yourself for a past mistake. Forgiveness doesn't require a grand gesture or even a conversation with the other person. It starts with a simple decision to release the hold that resentment has on your heart and mind. By doing so, you're not just practicing Stoic detachment, you're opening the door to a deeper sense of peace and freedom. And in that freedom, you'll find the strength to live fully, unburdened by the weight of the past. What if we slowed down to truly experience life? In a world that glorifies speed and instant results, patience can feel like a forgotten virtue. But for the Stoics, patience wasn't just about waiting. It was a profound form of wisdom, a way to detach from the urgency of the moment and embrace the present. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, once said, "No great thing is created suddenly, any more than a bunch of grapes or a fig. If you tell me that you desire a fig, I answer that there must be time. Let it first blossom, then bear fruit, then ripen." In other words, patience isn't passive. It's an active choice to trust the process, to allow life to unfold in its own time. At its core, patience is about letting go of the need for immediate results. It's about recognizing that some things, whether it's personal growth, a meaningful relationship, or a creative project, can't be rushed. The Stoics understood that impatience often stems from a desire to control outcomes, and that this desire can lead to frustration and anxiety. By practicing patience, we detach from the illusion of control and instead focus on what we can do in the present moment. This shift doesn't just reduce stress, it allows us to fully engage with the journey rather than fixating on the destination. Consider a long-term goal like learning a new skill or building a business. It's easy to feel discouraged when progress is slow or when setbacks arise. But what if, instead of focusing on the end result, you focused on the small, daily steps that move you forward? Patience invites you to celebrate the process, to find joy in the incremental improvements and the lessons learned along the way. By detaching from the urgency of achieving the goal, you're not giving up. You're creating space to grow and learn at your own pace. Now take a moment to reflect. Where in your life could you practice more patience? Is it in a personal project, a relationship, or even your own self-growth? The Stoics remind us that patience isn't about waiting for life to happen. It's about actively engaging with it moment by moment without the pressure of immediate results. When we slow down, we don't just experience life more deeply. We also cultivate a sense of calm and clarity that allows us to move forward with purpose. So, the next time you feel the pull of urgency, remember, patience isn't a delay, it's a gift, a way to fully embrace the richness of the present. What if we found joy in what we already have? This simple yet profound question lies at the heart of Stoic contentment, a practice that helps us detach from the endless cycle of desire and find peace in the present moment. The Stoics believed that true happiness doesn't come from acquiring more, but from appreciating what we already possess. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts, therefore guard accordingly." In other words, contentment isn't about what we have, it's about how we see it. By shifting our perspective, we can transform ordinary moments into sources of deep fulfillment. At its core, Stoic contentment is about recognizing the sufficiency of the present. It's the practice of finding joy in the simple, everyday experiences that often go unnoticed: a warm cup of tea, a quiet moment with a loved one, or even the feeling of sunlight on your skin. The Stoics understood that when we constantly chase after what we don't have, we overlook the abundance that's already here. Contentment, then, isn't about settling, it's about savoring. It's a way of detaching from the restless pursuit of more and grounding ourselves in the richness of the present. So, how can we bring this Stoic practice into our own lives? Start by focusing on the small, simple pleasures that are already within your reach. Take a walk and notice the beauty of nature, the rustling leaves, the chirping birds, the way the light filters through the trees. Or sit down to a meal and truly savor each bite, appreciating the flavors, textures, and the effort that went into preparing it. These moments of mindfulness aren't just acts of gratitude, they're acts of detachment. By fully immersing yourself in the present, you're letting go of the need for more and finding joy in what's already here. Now, take a moment to reflect. What's one thing in your life that brings you joy, no matter how small or ordinary it may seem? Maybe it's the sound of laughter, the comfort of a favorite book, or the feeling of a cozy blanket on a cold day. The Stoics remind us that contentment isn't about grand achievements or material possessions. It's about finding beauty and meaning in the everyday. When we practice this kind of appreciation, we're not just detaching from endless desires, we're opening ourselves up to a deeper, more enduring sense of peace. And in that peace, we find the freedom to live fully, right here, right now. What if we faced our fears instead of running from them? This is where courage comes into play, not as a reckless act of defiance, but as a deliberate choice to move forward despite uncertainty. The Stoics saw courage as one of the 4 cardinal virtues, essential for living a life of wisdom and integrity. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most eloquent voices, wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." This isn't just about grand, heroic acts. It's about the quiet bravery it takes to face our everyday fears, to step into the unknown, and to detach from the paralysis that fear can create. Courage, in the Stoic sense, isn't the absence of fear. It's the willingness to act in spite of it. Think about it. Fear often holds us back, whether it's fear of failure, rejection, or even the unknown. But when we choose courage, we're not letting fear dictate our actions. Instead, we're reclaiming our power to move forward, even when the path ahead isn't clear. This is the essence of Stoic detachment, not ignoring fear, but refusing to let it control us. By practicing courage, we detach from the grip of fear and open ourselves up to growth, possibility, and a deeper sense of purpose. Let's take a practical example. Imagine you've been offered a new opportunity, a job, a project, or even a relationship, but it feels risky. Maybe it's outside your comfort zone, or you're worried about failing. Courage invites you to ask, what's the worst that could happen? And more importantly, what's the best? By facing the fear head-on, you're not just taking a step forward, you're building resilience and confidence. Even if things don't go as planned, you'll know you had the courage to try, and that in itself is a victory. Now, take a moment to reflect. What's one fear you've been avoiding? Maybe it's a difficult conversation, a personal goal, or even a change you've been hesitant to make. How might you approach it with courage today? The Stoics remind us that every act of bravery, no matter how small, strengthens our ability to face life's challenges with clarity and calm. And as you practice this, you'll find that courage isn't just about overcoming fear, it's about embracing the fullness of life, with all its uncertainties and possibilities. So the next time fear whispers in your ear, remember, you have the power to choose courage, and in that choice you'll find the freedom to live fully, unburdened by fear. As we come to the end of this exploration, let's take a moment to reflect on what Stoic detachment truly means. It's not about withdrawing from life or numbing ourselves to the world around us. Instead, it's about cultivating a deeper sense of clarity and connection both to ourselves and to others. By practicing cognitive reframing, we learn to see challenges as opportunities rather than obstacles. Through presence, we anchor ourselves in the here and now, free from the distractions of past regrets or future anxieties. And with acceptance, we embrace life as it is, finding peace in the midst of impermanence. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." This is the essence of Stoic detachment, the ability to remain steady and centered, no matter what life throws our way. It's about recognizing that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can always control how we respond. And in that response lies our freedom, to live with purpose, to connect deeply, and to find inner peace even in the most turbulent times. So how can you bring these principles into your own life? Start small. The next time you face a challenge, pause and ask yourself, what's within my control here? How can I reframe this situation to see it as an opportunity for growth? When you feel overwhelmed, take a moment to ground yourself in the present, whether it's through a deep breath, a mindful walk, or simply noticing the world around you. And when life feels uncertain, practice acceptance. Let go of the need to control the uncontrollable, and instead focus on what you can do to move forward with grace and resilience. Stoic detachment isn't a one-time practice, it's a lifelong journey. It's about building habits that help us stay connected to what truly matters, even when the world feels chaotic. And as you embark on this journey, remember that you're not alone. The Stoics walked this path before us, offering timeless wisdom that still resonates today. Their teachings remind us that true peace comes not from avoiding life's challenges, but from facing them with courage, clarity, and an open heart. Now it's your turn. How will you apply these principles in your own life? What's one small step you can take today to practice Stoic detachment? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how these ideas resonate with you. And if you found this video helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more insights on Stoic wisdom and practical tools for living a more meaningful life. Together, let's embrace the power of detachment to foster deeper connections, greater resilience, and a lasting sense of inner peace. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Until next time, stay grounded, stay curious, and stay